Ward are back at it again. Today we're taking a look at their latest release, the Christopher Ward 12X, a skeletonized version of their very popular Titanium 12. This one is getting a skeletonized version of their in-house movement, the SH21. Of course, we know Christopher Ward for producing high-end watches at very reasonable prices. They started with their dive watches, they moved on to things like jumping hours and of course chiming watches with the Bel Canto. They came out with the 12, a very competitive version of their take on a Gerald Genta design, and now we are getting a skeletonized version of that watch with their in-house movement. I have it hands-on to show you guys, so let's not waste any more time. Let's flip the camera. Let's take a look at the newest version of the 12, their Skeletonized X. So here it is. This is the Christopher Ward 12X. I am very, very excited that I have one hands-on to show you guys because this is a phenomenal watch. I am very impressed with the overall feel of this watch in hand. I want to go through the details of this watch. It is a 12, so it's an integrated bracelet watch inspired by Gerald Genta design. That might be some of the least important news about this watch. One of the biggest things that I've always loved about Christopher Ward is that they just try different things. And they tried with the Bel Canto. They made a jump hour watch. They've made upgraded versions of their dive watches with SH21s inside, so they're in-house movements. They've used Globalite, solid blocks of loom, and things like that. So they're doing things, they're trying things, and here we are with the 12, a watch that looks way more expensive and feels more expensive than it actually is. This is a Christopher Ward 12 with the SH21, their in-house movement inside. Sometimes a watch could look cheap when it's skeletonized if it's not done well, and this is done very well. And what about this watch makes it very well done? Well, I'll tell you. I think, in my opinion, is the fact that it is a two-tone movement. So you have silver elements. It's a twin barrel movement with 120-hour power reserve. You can see those barrels right there on the front of the dial, or lack of a dial. And those are in silver. Then there are elements that are anthracite black on the dial, the bridges, and a few other elements. That adds a little bit of contrast. And then there's a bunch of different levels to the movement, even on the dial side, not just on the back side. On the dial side, you're getting all these different levels. They've really gone to town with sort of skeletonizing this movement. They've removed a lot of material, and therefore you're getting a lot of depth, and it gives it a more expensive look. They've also put a ring around the dial that is loom. There's a little trapezoid of loom at the top of the dial, or again, lack of a dial. And then you have loom on the hands. There is no loom on the second hand. However, they've done something clever, and I'll show you that during the loom shot because, of course, that was one of the first things that I checked out. This still gets 100 meters of water resistance. So you're getting a screwed-in crown and a screwed-in case back. The case back on this watch is very different. You're getting a boxed sapphire crystal. Around that sapphire crystal is the bezel. The bezel on this watch is made out of grade 5 titanium. So different from the titanium version, the standard titanium version of the 12. Then you're getting a grade 2 mid case. So the portion that could scratch the most, they've put in grade 5 titanium. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then the other portion that can scratch a lot is the case back. They've put that in grade 5 titanium. And when you flip it over, you're going to notice that the movement in this watch looks enormous, and that's because it is. It's a very large, very modern movement. You have a big rotor on here, and again, lots of depth. When you're looking at it from the back, it looks equally as good as it does from the front. But there's one other element that's very interesting here. Because they're trying to keep this as thin as possible, they've shoehorned what is a large movement into a case that is somewhat thin, somewhat small. They've actually added a boxed sapphire crystal on the back that is actually more boxed than the sapphire crystal that is on the front. Very cool, and it's not incredibly thick. Again, you're getting 100 meters of water resistance, but this isn't very thick at 12.6 millimeters according to my calipers. This is a 41 millimeter watch. It wears a little bit bigger than that because you have these crown guards, but I would say it wears like a 42 millimeter in my opinion. And then you have a 40 millimeter lug to lug. That's on the case itself. That's not including the bracelet. The bracelet does have male end length, so it comes out to around 54 millimeters, including the bracelet. I would imagine it wears somewhere in between the two. They do offer this on a rubber strap. I'm not sure how that rubber strap interacts with the case. If it does actually fold down better, I'm not sure. Might be better for smaller wrists, but again, I'm not sure if that is actually the case. The mid case on here does have polishing, so you do have polished edges on both the top and the bottom of the case. You do get a sign crown with the Christopher Ward logo, and then you have these crown guards which are screwed into the case. One of the bigger news events on this release is something that is in the bracelet. So you do get a grade 2 titanium bracelet, which is of course Christopher Ward bracelet, which is excellent. Everything is brushed beautifully. You have a polished edge along the entire bracelet, and it comes to a butterfly clasp. Now this is where the news gets good, because it is signed Christopher Ward. That's not the big news. What's the big news? Well, undo the bracelet. This gets on the fly micro adjust on both sides. Very similar to what you get from very high-end brands. And I'll just do a close-up of the link, and I'll show you the before and after, and I'll do it right now so you can see what I'm talking about. But all you need to do is pull, and it comes out about, I don't know, it's about 1.5 millimeters, and then you just push in, and it goes back in very, very easy. Very similar to what I have on my Vacheron, which is a very expensive watch, but there you go. It's so easy, and it feels really good. Very easy to do. I am very impressed overall with this watch. This is something that looks a lot more expensive than it actually is. Like I said before, I'm going to go over price, and I'll do that right now. This looks like a watch that could cost $10,000, $20,000 in my opinion. I really do believe that, because if another brand had come out with this and we didn't know this was Christopher Ward, again, there's no branding on the front of this watch. I do want to mention that, which is a little bit of a note that they took from the Bel Canto. No branding. Recognizable though, because I think the CW12 is pretty recognizable from the case shape and the bracelet specifically. On the bracelet, this is coming at $4,865. Might seem like a lot of money to some, considering what you're getting here, considering the finishing on the movement, which is actually very nicely finished. The partners that they use for these watches, some of the partners that they're using on these watches are very high-end manufacturers. Grade 5 titanium, the on-the-fly micro adjust. All of this is a lot of engineering and a lot of work that goes into a watch that costs under $5,000. Now, if you want it on the strap, it's $4,495. That is actually a significant difference, but even though there's a big difference, I would definitely say get it on the bracelet, buy the strap separately, because this bracelet is phenomenal. And it's thin too. On my wrist today is another Christopher Ward, is the 36 millimeter version of the C63 GMT, the Sealander, with the Dragonfly dial. This is probably one of the best blue dials that Christopher Ward make, probably one of the best blue dials that you can buy. Dragonfly is a very good name for this watch because it does have a iridescent dragonfly look to it. There you go. I have a 7.5 inch wrist. I think this looks really, really good on my wrist. It fits really well. It's not thick. I thought this would be a lot thicker. When I found out that they were coming out with this watch, I was really worried about it being a very thick watch, especially since they were trying to keep the 100 meters of water resistance. And I think they did it. They pulled it off. I mean, that does not look very thick on my wrist. And part of that is because they put that domed or box sapphire crystal on the back. It looks great. It actually looks really cool off wrist, and it looks just as good on wrist. And really every detail has been paid attention to. So you have this very bright line of lume that goes around the dial, actually marking out all the primary indices, and then you have that at the top, a little pip or whatever you want to call it, that trapezoid that's a little bit of a different color. The hands are fully loomed, both the hour and the minutes. And then you have the second hand, which is ticking along and actually crossing over this line of loom, so you could actually see that your watch is working in the dark even though the second hand isn't loomed. So it's a little trick that looks great. Everything about this watch I think looks really very, very good, and I really love that they put micro adjust into a butterfly clasp. I think they're the first independent watchmaker out there to offer something like that for under $5,000. I can't think of anything. I think there's brands like Formex out there that have offered on-the-fly micro adjust on butterfly clasp, but not as elegant as this, in my opinion. I think this is more elegant. And it's on a titanium watch too. I can't think of another one. If you could think of one, please tell me down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of Christopher Ward? What do you think of what they are doing? Almost every year they come out with a new, cool, weird, crazy watch that is just impressive. And this is a very impressive watch, especially for the price. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.